Welcome to today's Explainer. We're looking at something absolutely incredible today. We so often hear about these massive, multi-million-dollar global initiatives aimed at changing the world. But sometimes the most profound systemic change actually comes from highly targeted grassroots interventions. We're going to look at the African Youth Panel in Ethiopia, and specifically one incredible story of transformation that proves how just a little bit of the right support can completely rewrite a person's future. Let's get into it. Think about this massive contrast for a second. On one hand, you have heavy limitations. In the bustling streets of Akaki and remote villages all across Ethiopia, young people are often just trapped in a grueling cycle of struggling for daily survival. Economic hurdles and physical barriers are constantly dimming their hopes. But then, on the other hand, you have what every single young person actually strives for, right? A dignified future filled with leadership, innovation, and realized dreams. The distance between those two realities can feel impossibly huge when you're just trying to get through the day. So, how do we actually bridge that gap? Section 1, Youth Barriers in Ethiopia. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at a real person facing these exact hurdles, Alazar Habtamu. He grew up dealing with the heavy, compounding limitations of living with a disability in a low-income household in Addis Ababa, on top of losing his mother at a young age. Section 2, How the AYP Works. Now, the catalyst that completely changed Alazar's trajectory was the 2025 partnership of ECYDO and the African Youth Panel, or AYP. This program set out to empower 20 determined youth leaders, fundamentally shifting them from passive victims of their circumstances to active architects of their own communities. To make that shift happen, the AIP used a framework called Participatory Action Research, or PAR for short. Now, I know that sounds like a super academic term, right? But what it actually means is incredibly grounded and practical. It's a framework that takes young people completely out of survival mode and puts them right in the driver's seat. Instead of outside experts parachuting in to study them, these 20 youth panelists were empowered to become the researchers themselves. They were the ones analyzing their own communities, acting as advocates, and looking for real-world answers. So here is exactly how that PAR framework played out in action for the panelists. It was a very clear 3-step sequence. Step 1, identify local barriers to employment. They investigated exactly what was holding their peers back. Step 2, facilitate community dialogues. They actually brought people together to talk about these issues openly and constructively. And Step 3, co-create practical solutions. They didn't just point out the problems. They worked alongside their communities to build resilient grassroots answers. But to do this effectively, these 20 youth leaders needed something absolutely critical. They needed time and they needed breathing room. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that number, $250. That was the monthly stipend provided to each of the 20 panelists, which comes out to about 30,000 to 40,000 Ethiopian birr. This stipend, given from April to December 2025, alongside technical support, was the crucial mechanism of the entire program. Why? Well, because you simply can't ask someone to focus fully on research, community advocacy, and launching entrepreneurial initiatives if they are simultaneously scrambling to figure out how to afford their next meal. This $250 bought them the mental and physical space to actually do the work. It completely removed that daily scramble for survival. Section 3, Alazar's turning point. When the daily pressure of survival was finally lifted by that stipend, Alazar's potential was totally unlocked. He gained newfound confidence, learned leadership skills, and got entrepreneurship training. And man, he took massive action. Let's look at exactly what Alazar built. First, he started a small poultry farm with his father, generating income by selling eggs to his local community. Second, he partnered with a friend to open a modest youth game zone. And this didn't just generate more income, it actually created a much-needed, safe recreational space for his peers in Akaki. And incredibly importantly, because of the AYP stipend and his new enterprises, Alazar was able to acquire a wheelchair. This dramatically improved his mobility and his independence. Literally in a matter of months, he went from feeling the heavy limitations of his circumstances to actively supporting his family and building thriving businesses. It's just amazing. Just listen to how Alazar describes it in his own words. He says, "The African Youth Panel gave me the confidence and support to turn my ideas into reality. Today, I am not only helping my family, but also showing other young people that challenges can become opportunities." So why does this matter so much? What should you take away from this? It matters because Alazar's success isn't just a nice, heartwarming story. It is a highly scalable blueprint for sustainable development. When you invest directly in a young person's agency, they uplift their families, they build local economies, and they become a literal beacon of possibility for everyone around them. Section 4, Achieving Global Goals. And this brilliantly illustrates how local action ties into massive global objectives. You see, the AYP didn't just change 20 lives, it actively advanced critical goals on a planetary scale. When we map this out against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, the impact is just undeniable. For SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, Al-Azhar's new poultry farm and game zone perfectly align with Target 8.3 for promoting entrepreneurship. Because he is a youth with a disability creating his own work, he's directly hitting Target 8.5. By getting trained and working, he's advancing Target 8.6, which focuses on reducing the number of youth not in employment, education, or training. The technical training he received checks the box for SDG 4, quality education. And by ensuring youth with disabilities are included and empowered in the first place, this initiative directly advances SDG 10, reduced inequalities. Al-Azhar is literally living proof of these global targets in action. And hey, the momentum doesn't stop at the UN level. The work of ECYDO and the African Youth Panel hooks directly into massive regional commitments as well. It perfectly aligns with the African Union Agenda 2063, specifically Aspiration 6, which focuses on people-driven development that relies on the potential of empowered youth. It also advances the MasterCard Foundation's incredibly ambitious Young Africa Work strategy, which aims to enable 30 million young Africans to access dignified work by 2030. What we are seeing here is that investing in youth-led research and providing direct, unencumbered support builds resilient leaders who drive sustainable development from the grassroots up. Which leads us to a final, incredibly important thought to leave you with. We just saw how giving 20 young people some training, a framework for action, and $250 a month completely rewrote their futures. So, my question to you is this. If a $250 stipend can transform a life, fund multiple businesses, buy a wheelchair, and lift a whole community, how much human potential are we currently leaving untapped simply because people are stuck in survival mode? It really makes you rethink how we approach problem solving on a global scale, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this leaves you as inspired as I am about the remarkable power of removing basic barriers.